Welcome Old Warder to the Crown of Command and to this video presentation today. You'll witness a battle forged between friend and foe as we have Nick and Max together today to play our final game of Warhammer Renaissance for 2025. Today we see these warlords battle for control over a sacred relic that harnesses magical power bound within it. If Shaman or Wizard become into base-based contact with the relic, they will gain an extra 2d6 wins and magic cards for that turn. And with the table laid out with all that glorious terrain, sides are rolled for and magic cards dealt, with up to 4 magic users in this 2000 point battle today. With that done, both General and Warlord mapped out their units' deployment in secret to create this fog of war. And what a way to celebrate Warhammer with these two finely painted armies to face each other today. The Empire is under Nick's command in a combination of a painting commission on behalf of Eavylead Studios and also some of my Empire units and characters from my personal collection. Nick was given a large range of units to select from, which he took full advantage of. So now we have some glorious cavalry units such as the prestigious Winged Lancers and the Horse Archers, and of course the Outriders with their experimental handguns, which made up another unit of new units we have not seen fielded. Which brings us to Max's Beastman army, which is featured on the channel before. Max brought some units to invoke fear into the hearts of men, with these Dragon Ogres and Minotaurs being the main threats to the Empire lines of defense this day. And Max has a small unit of infiltrating Beastmen that can enter a side of the battlefield from turn 2. Nick will have to hope that his Great Cannon and Hellblaster volley gun can strike true and have any chance of halting this Chaos incursion. And before we begin, we just wanted to send our commiserations to artist Matthew Street, who sadly passed away recently, but his memory will live on through his wonderful artwork, especially when we play Warhammer Renaissance. We all remarked before the battle today that this table and miniatures was a real feast for the eyes. If the table and miniatures inspire you, then maybe you want to join the Call of the Crown 5 painting challenge, which starts October 1st. More information can be found on the Crown of Command podcast, so please find the links in the show notes below. And with that, the players gave their respective handshake in good sportsmanship, and they were ready to roll to claim for initiative for the turn. And with Nick winning the roll, he was delighted to start the game with Empire turn 1. Nick began by moving several of his units to maneuver into a better position to draw firing lines from his range units and artillery. Nick chose a line of 5 for his Great Cannon with consideration to maximise wounds on the Dragon Ogres, and if lucky, take out some of those smelly and hairy beastmen skulking behind them. Nick's estimation was good initially, and his first artillery roll was even better. And the bounce roll was perfect. Anything but a 1, Nick. Max's cloved hoof brushed away the artillery dice back to where it came. Consequently, all of Nick's range shooting proved fruitless, as not a single wound was caused to any of Max's beastie boys this turn. Let's see what Nick can conjure up in the magic phase then. The winds of magic cards used in this battle were created by the talented cloved hands of Max. You can find a link to them in the video description for your printing pleasure. With Nick passing his turn to Max, the Beastman Shaman evoked a Blade Wind, targeting the unit of Knights of the White Wolf. Nick, with the Dispel card up his sleeve, comfortably send the Blade of Wind back to Max's hairy hand with a roll of a 4. And with both players declaring they had nothing left to cast, they held a card in reserve, and we went on to Max's first turn of the game. With the trolls just making their stupidity test with their Beast Lord in range and a roll of a 10, they clawed and gibbered their way towards the relic, and of course to the front lines of these mere mortal men. With no missile troops, Max went straight into the magic phase and tried to summon a gust of magical wind his way on a roll of a 5. Max's Master Shaman targeted the pink fire of his inch towards the Gold Wizard. But Nick revealed that the unit had a banner of spell protection that would dispel hostile magic on a 4+, which he did, rolling a 5. Nick in reply now wished to cast a bound spell from the Gold Wizard's Mage's Amulet of Steel, which allows units within 18 inches to claim an additional +2 armor save, or to a -2 armor save on an enemy unit. Max's attempts to stop the magical enchantment were unsuccessful, and the Gold Wizard bestowed the +2 save to the Knights of the White Wolf, bestowing upon them a 1+ armor save until the start of the next magic phase. With Max passing to Nick, the Amethyst Wizard cast the purple side spell to enchant his Purple Reaper arcane item that if successfully cast will grant the wizard 1d6 strength 10 hits on each enemy model in base contact in the melee phase. Max deciding to use one of his magic dispel scrolls to stop it. Next, Nick cast the Gilded Cage spell from his Gold Wizard targeting the Dragon Ogres. Max allowed the spell to go through as it only prevents them from moving, and they can break free passing a strength test in their turn. However, if the Dragon Ogres are forced to flee, they will be destroyed. Nick provided a rather nice gimmick with this magical string that fitted the dimensions of the spell parameters perfectly. Shame it wasn't a gold chain though. And with the flux of magic ended, it was time to go into Empire turn 2. Nick had to consider how he was going to approach this wall of pain before him now, as his Knights of the White Wolf were poised to charge, but if it did, they would block off his cannon's line of sight options. But Nick, being the brave soul of the Empire, charged the White Wolves to their certain doom as they passed their fear test, and they rode in there valiantly with their two-handed hammers swinging. The fast-paced moving winged lancers changed direction and sought to put pressure on the Dragon Ogre flank. A cunning move indeed. The Empire State troops pushed up to brace the potential impact of charges next turn, and the missile-armed troops among them loaded their ammunition to let loose a salvo of misery on the followers of Chaos. With a short prayer to Sigmar, Nick placed his guess range for his great cannon in line with the now caged Dragon Ogres. But his prayers went unanswered, rolling a misfire, and the great cannon would have to miss its next turn. And Nick's misfortune with range shots would extend to his crossbowmen, outriders and archers, as they failed to cause a single wound to these blessed beasts of chaos. He would have to hope the Knights of the White Wolf would make up the difference. The Grand Master was the first to fall in his sacrifice in the challenge with the Doom Bull. The remaining knights fought bravely and even bloodied the Minotaurs with their hammers in fury. Thanks to the amulets of Steel's enchantment, not all of the knights perished from the brutal response of the horned beasts of the Minotaurs. In the magic phase, Nick began with successfully casting his bound spell using the Amulet of Steel. Max's Master Shaman's response was to cast the Pink Fire to Zinch, targeting the Gold Mage in the Outrider unit. But the Outrider's magical banner of protection managed to dispel it in the end. And the Amethyst Wizard managed to enhance his Purple Reaper with the Purple Side spell this turn. Max decided to use his second Dispel Scroll and broke the gilded cage around his Dragon Ogres. The champion of the Winged Lancer Regiment pointed his enchanted Ring of Volans at the Dragon Ogres, which contained the Dance of Despair grey magic spell. Under its trance, the Dragon Ogres are forced to move directly forward 1d6 inches, which put them just out of spitting distance of the Halberdiers. The spell prevents the unit from fighting in hand-to-hand combat or charging next turn. This last action ended the magic phase for us to begin Beastman turn 2. The Beastman Shamans were almost in reach of the Sacred Stone, and they could feel the magical power it bestows. And the Chaos Trolls, passing the leadership test, moved towards the forest edge. And the Empire archers had to be on their guard as a bunch of infiltrating beastmen moved in from behind. But our attention was drawn to the centre of the table to see out the fate of the brave knights in their sacrifice, as two of the mountain men of Middenheim fell to the Minotaur axes, with the remaining knight holding aloft the banner of the White Wolf. Magical energy flowed through the land once again, with both Shaman and Mage boasting the hand they were dealt. Max's Master Shaman succeeded in banishing the Dance of Despair on a roll of a 6. And Nick's Gold Master Mage wished to enchant the Dragon Ogre's armor with a -2 save modifier this turn, but Max replied with a 5 on his Dispel roll. Max pondered on which magical fire he would cast and decided on the Pink 5 to Zinch, targeting the Gold Mage in the Outrider unit. But the Banner of Spell Protection came in use as he dispelled it on 5. Nick's Gold Wizard did see the Chaos Trolls trapped within his Gilded Cage spell for the turn, making them good targets for range fire. The Gold Mage was not done yet as he flicked through his spellbook and chanted a spell that saw the forest disappear before their very eyes with the spell Transmutation. Nick, wasting no time, charged his great swords into the magically bound trolls, hoping to win the combat, breaking them and destroying them. And the griffin-winged backbanners saw the winged lancers charge into the dragon ogre's flank without fear. The Hellblaster volley crew cranked the revolving barrels aimed at the Beastman unit where the shamans were sheltering in, firing 3 shots that resulted in 12 hits that were halved due to firing over half range. Causing 2 wounds and seeing one of the Beastmen fall. The volleys of crossbow bolts and arrows finally did find flesh, but only felling 2 of the Chaos Hounds. Max will now have to deal with the Amethyst Wizard leading the Winged Lancers into the charge, welding the Purple Reaper. With Nick rolling 4 strength 10 hits on the Dragon Ogres, and his Winged Lancer champion and comrades following through with their Lancers, 2 of the mighty 4 wounded Beasts of Chaos fell, sending renewed hope to the Empire front lines. And with the last of the Knights of the White Wolf falling to the axe of the Minotaurs, may Sigmar and Middenheim praise his bravery this day. The Chaos Trolls opting to swing their crude weapons rather than vomit at the Great Swordsman. 5 of the Braid Warriors fell, but not without reply, as they fought bravely, having scored 4 wounds to the slimy and often smelly Beasts of Chaos. Nick stood stunned, however, as Max rolled all of his regeneration saves, making the sacrifices made not pay off this round. Now came to checking break test results, and they began with the Dragon Ogres, which failed the break test, seeing them flee directly away from the Winged Lancers. With Nick rolling high on the pursuit roll, he rolled 17, easily trampling and cutting down the Dragon Ogres in their wake, which also brought some courage to the Great Swords as they passed their break test. And the Shamans heard past their panic check, having seen and witnessed the Dragon Ogre's fate. The Trolls, also having passed their strength test during the turn, broke the Gilded Cage. And the final movement of the turn saw the Winged Lancers overrun, and their movement allowing them to charge into the Minotaurs. Magic once again filled the air as we entered the final phase of the game, with Nick rolling a lowly 3 for the Winds of Magic. The Goldmaster got us underway, enchanting the Winged Lancers with a +2 armor buff this turn. Tzinch's power of blue flame flickered around the halberdiers. Nick responded using a Destroy Magic special card, but his heart sank, rolling a 3. But the Amethyst Mage using a Dispel card, dousing the flames on a roll of a 6. The end of the magic phase had both players remarking on some of the highlights this turn, and what that would bring in turn 3 for the Beastmen. Max began the turn by charging his infiltrating Beastmen into the archers, and the pack herder had the hounds redirect the position towards the Kislev flank. And the Master Shaman's unit was able to make contact with the Sacred Relic this turn, and thus granting the Servant of Tzinch a surge of power this magic phase. The Empire Archers fought bravely as they held their ground and managed to draw their combat with the marauding Beastmen. And then our attention was drawn to the deciding combat of the battle. Could the might of the Winged Lancer charge be enough to break the Doom Bull and see them break and run like the Dragon Ogres? Well, Nick did have the Amethyst Wizard's Purple Reaper still active with the Purple Size spell, so Nick rolled to see how many hits he would automatically inflict. He rolled a 4 hoping for a 6, but he needed to convert those hits into wounds, but he rolled 2 1s, and 2 wounds was inflicted in the end, much to Max's delight. The Minotaur Lord responded with taking the human mage's life, cleaving him in 2 with his axe forged by chaos. As the dice fell, so did the bodies on both sides. As fate would see it, no units failed their break tests, and they were locked in combat for a further turn. Max rolled for his extra 2d6 wins and magic cards this turn, and we're ready to get the magic phase underway. The Shaman Dark Sorcerer cast Blade Wind on the Halberdier unit, which Nick couldn't stop. Max rolled 3d6 to see how many hits he'll need to re-roll, causing a wound on a 4+. With normal armor saves still applied, Nick saved 1 of the 4 wounds. Nick's Gold Wizard now evoked the power of the Amulet of Steel to help preserve the Winged Lancers in this upcoming turn. But Max had found a spell in his hand of his many cards and ended the enchantment on a roll of a 6. Max countered with a pink fire spell targeting the Gold Master Mage, but the unit's banner of spell protection saw him unharmed as a result. Gold Wizard, now feeling the time being of the essence, chanted the words to cast a golden arrow that would project from his forehead and hurtle towards the Beastman Master Shaman, causing 1d6 strength 5 hits. With Max's attempt to stop the spell being thwarted on a roll of a 3. Nick proceeded to roll a further 3 for hits, only converting a single wound on the Shaman of Tzinch. Max's Shaman then cast the Blue Fire of Tzinch on the Halberdiers, which Nick allowed to pass. Six hits were inflicted, which Max converted into 3 wounds. I could tell that Nick was holding back on using his Dispel Magic scrolls, which he did have for good reason, as Max pulled the Total Power card to pink fire his Gold Mage. What makes Warhammer Renaissance unique is that you can use a Dispel scroll to stop total power, which Nick did to save his Gold Wizard's life. Nick had the Kislevites horse archers holding the flanks and circled the Chaos Hounds. And the Outriders with the Gold Wizard moved closer to the relic, as the Empire needed to secure the Sacred Stone to claim the 1,000 points at the end to win this game today. And Nick had the Great Cannon line up a shot through the Shaman herd of Beastmen, which struck true, killing the hairy bugger on the end of that cannonball. Artillery crossbow bolts found their mark this time, with 2 of the hounds falling and the herdmaster holding its nerve. And bless Sigmar, as the archer unit prevailed once again, winning the combat with inflicting 2 wounds on the small herd of infiltrating beastmen. Nick would have to call upon the blessings of the Emperor to see his wing lancers hold out for the turn. The Doombull Minotaur decapitating the Kislev champion with a single strike, and he gorged on his corpse as the remaining Minotaurs overcame the Kislev warriors with pure brutality. And the Castrals had no problem defeating the last thin line of great swordsmen before them. And when Max failing his break test, he saw his infiltrating beastmen rout and run for the table edge from whence they came. The Empire soldiers looked for a glimmer of hope as their spirits fell, seeing 2 of their units decimated this turn. Bless Sigmar's banner as the armoured standard restored belief where all seemed lost, and they rallied to fight for another round. 7 was the number that was rolled for the wins in Magic this turn. Maybe Magic can break the deadlock over the Sacred Relic. Blue Fire of Tzinch claimed the life of one of the Empire state troops this turn. And the Gilded Cage was set to imprison the Chaos Trolls once again. But Max successfully stopped the spell using a Mental Duel special card, and got the upper hand on Nick, causing a wound to his Gold Wizard adversary in the process. Max started to up the ante, casting another Flames of Tzinch spell targeting this time his Empire's General. With the unit's banner of spell protection finally failing on a roll of a 1, Max exposed his inner beastman as tensions ran high. Fortune favoured Nick, however, as his Gold Wizard dispelled the pink flames, frustrating Max to no end. In his last action of the phase, Nick took back the transmutation spell to protect his Hellblaster from a potential troll charge next turn. In the heat of battle, only ice cream can soothe heated words between rival commanders. The inevitable charges of both the Beastmen and Minotaurs as they sought to protect the relic and break through the Empire's weak line of defense. Max and his Beastmen frothed at the mouth in glee as the Empire dead began to pile up. Praise Sigmar, the Outriders and the Gold Wizards unit prevailed and held their ground in the combat this turn. However, with the Halberdier unit's nerves shattered after their melee, they broke ranks and fled, only to be hacked to death by the clawed hands of the Shaman Master and his foul-ridden kin. Max's Beastman Shamans led the magical assault, this time with Blade Wind on the Empire Great Cannon. Successfully dispelled, rolling a 4 of his Dispel card. Unchallenged, the Gold Wizard used his Amulet of Steel to reinforce the barded armour of the Outriders this turn. Blue Fire Tzinch claimed another life of one of the Halberdiers. He had the cunning plan of using Transmutation on the forest to be able to shoot at the trolls in his upcoming turn, only to be dismayed with Max's Dispel on a roll of a 4. Max felt the Minotaur's strength would prevail next turn as the Gold Wizard entrapped them within the gilded cage. With both players totally exhausted after that magical contest of supremacy, it was time for a cup of tea and to start Empire turn 5. Empire units reformed to face potential new threats. And the Great Cannon let off a shot that almost took the head clean off the Master Shaman, Max saving him on a roll of a 2 for his Lookout Sir roll. And the Hellblaster volley gun crew had turned their 9-barrel war machine to aim at the soft underbelly of the Beastman, but exploded with the first shot fired, which Nick could see the funny side of. Max seemed worried again about the missile attacks on his beloved kindred, but with the toughness of 4 and 2 wounds, he had nothing to worry about. Cillian crossbowmen fired off another salvo of bolts aimed at the regenerative-bellied Chaos Trolls, and much to their surprise actually resulted in a wound. But the main focus, of course, is with the Outriders, led by their general and the Gold Mage, facing perilous odds against the forces of Chaos. The Doom Bull finally dispatched the Gold Wizard, as Max had been wanting his head as a trophy for most of the game now. And the Outriders also fell, as they are not really equipped for close quarters, relying on their experimental handguns to deal most of the damage. In the end, only the general remained to hold the line. And in the combat resolution saw the Empire General's spirit fall and eventually break, as he failed 2 break tests which had him turn to flee to the table edge. The Minotaurs fed on the dead Outriders and Gold Mage, restraining their pursuit. The Magic phase now became a very one-sided affair as Max took full control and started off by targeting the fleeing Empire General with pink flames of Tzinch. And Nick failing his only dispel that he had in his hand. Nick could only watch as his general was consumed by pink flames of magical energy. Max's final turn, he herded his hairy ones around the relic and in pursuit of human flesh, with the Minotaurs charging and stomping over the bones of the Empire battle standard, and his Shaman's unit closing in on the archers. No close combat, it was straight to the magic phase, where Max could flex his Beastman-like muscles with no resistance from the now deceased Empire wizards. Throwing every single magical barrage of pink and blue flames and blades of wind at the state troops, but they held on to see out the magic phase, and thus the end of today's battle. Max could hold on to the relic, as most of the Empire army laid scattered and broken in the end. Nick, Max and I hope you really enjoyed this send-off to the Warhammer Renaissance for the year, and we really enjoyed this day of laughter, cups of tea, and classic Warhammer. Stay tuned for more battle reports by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell for when videos drop. And a massive thank you to my patrons who help me bring these battle reports to the big screen. I can't do this without you guys, so thank you so much for your support.